right, thanks, Nancy. Well, hello, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Madison Han. I am the meeting and events manager here at Doug. So I help run our local and regional meetup program. And I'm just here to tell you a little bit about Doug and kind of who we are. Doug, or Dynamics User Group, is a free community for users, implementers, and resellers of Microsoft business applications. Our main goal is to support the Microsoft Dynamics 365, GP, Power Platform, and AI community. And we want to help you excel and grow in your personal and professional career. Our rules of engagement, we essentially ask that these meetups are held to be solely educational. So please no sales pitches. Please come here to learn, to share your knowledge. We also ask that you ask questions to your speaker. I know that they always love it when, the audience is engaged and ask lots of questions. And at the end of the day, that's how you get the most out of these meetups as well. Dynamics User Group has multiple different programs, which you can check out on our website by scanning that QR code. We have open online discussion forums where you can ask questions based on a specific product. The community will help answer. We also have free webinars to attend. We have local meetups like this one, also some in person, depending on where you're located. We have some conferences, which I'll get into in a minute. And we also have our YouTube channel where you can watch all of the recorded meetups like this one. So if you're ever curious to see what people around the world are talking about, you can check out our YouTube channel. And we have the wonderful mentorship program, which if you're here, you probably know what that is. And I'll let probably Nancy or Cynthia kind of talk a little bit more about that. But really, really great program. We're super excited to have mentorship be one of our programs. Convergence. This is one of our conferences that we have coming up December 9th through the 12th in Miami. This will focus on AI and D365. You can scan that QR code to kind of learn more about the event, but we're going to be in Miami. So come and join us in Florida for the nice warm weather in December. It's going to be great. And if you're curious to know more, you can just scan that QR code and you'll see all the information about it. Next up is DynamicsCon in 2026. This will be May 12th through the 15th in Las Vegas. This is our annual large conference, and we have early bird pricing going on right now for $9.99, and that price ends December 31st. So if you're planning on coming, make sure to get your ticket before then. And this is a multi-day conference, focuses on all AI, D365, lots and lots of educational sessions. I think we have over 300 educational sessions and some really great speakers. So hopefully we will see you all there soon. And call for speakers is open now as well. You can go to our website to learn more about that. We also have our 2026 DynamicsCon regionals coming up. These were just announced and are now published on our website, but we will be going to Tampa, Florida for a Southeast regional in January. We're going to Vancouver in March, Rocky Mountain in April, and Toronto in June, which Nancy's a big help with in Toronto. These are local events. They're usually a day to 2 days, and they are led by local leaders and local planning committees who are people in the community. So if there's anything that you want to see at these events, please reach out to me, or if you know who the planning committee is, feel free to reach out to them. But they're a little bit larger in scope than local meetups like this one, but not quite as big as our main conferences. So a good way to get involved in your local community. And then we're also going to Africa in July, Ohio Valley in August, Montreal, which is a new one that we added in September. We're going to Germany in October and Houston in November. So we'll have some more specific dates and details coming soon, but this just to give you guys a general idea of what our plan is for the next year. And that's all for me. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop a question in the chat. I do unfortunately have to drop for another meeting, but I'll still be able to view the chat. So just make sure you ask questions there if you have any. And thank you guys. I'll pass it back over to Nancy.
Actually, I think it comes to me. So Madison, I am so grateful that you did that because that was perfect. Thank you very much.
Of course.
All right. And I will tell you from personal experience, the conferences and the regional meetups are amazing. And before we get into our AI in action, I do want to just share a couple things, and we'll talk at the end about our mentorship program. But I'll tell you what, the mentorship program, it's not just about connecting mentors and mentees, but it's about these meetups where we're talking about the subjects or the topics that very well could be something that is a goal for improvement in a mentor and mentee relationship. But these meetups, we try to have them every month. We publish them through LinkedIn. They're also published through the meetup group. So if you haven't already joined the group, you want to make sure you join the group so that you get the notifications of these. And we've had some wonderful topics. And Nancie made an interesting point before we started recording. Sometimes we don't have a large group on the call itself in these meetups, but boy, did these get watched after the fact. So if you can't make one of the sessions, don't forget, like Madison mentioned, the recordings go up on the Doug website. So make sure that you take that opportunity to see those also. All right. So Nancie, anything you wanted to add at this point?
No, very, very pleased to see that the Doug mentorship program is on the main page of the Doug programs. So that'll give,
and I'll share a little bit about that at the end, so you'll be able to see that too. So excellent. Yes, we have our own page. All right. So today, AI in action. Amazing, amazing topic. How many people go ahead and say yes in the, well, you can speak out loud, Stacy and Mike. How many of you, is this the first time you heard or saw the word AI today?
No, I see it all the time.
Exactly. All right. We hear about it. We see it all the time, but let's talk about it in action. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on some real life stories presented by four. I know our session said three, but we actually have four Microsoft 365 experts. All right. Now, when I'm talking about experts, I'm talking about individuals who work every day, all day with their Dynamics 365 product and share that information regularly with the community. So to get into who our participants and our panel are today, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start, and I'm going to introduce each person and let them say a little bit about themselves. Our fourth presenter today is Nicole, who has another meeting. We all have real jobs, has another meeting that she knew would overlap. So she may not be able to talk about herself at this time, but she'll be in time to share her story. So Nancie, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, great to meet everybody. I work for Avanade, which is a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. So we typically do very large programs, enterprise. We do mid-market as well. And as the practice lead, one of my day-to-day activities is trying to get all of the people upskilled in how do they use AI in their day-to-day jobs, as well as understand the AI that's in Dynamics 365. So this topic's really near and dear to my heart, and I think I've been a very early adopter of AI. And in fact, I was saying to somebody yesterday, AI is not new. Like if you've been using Siri or Cortana or any of those types of tools, that's AI as well. We're just moving along in the AI era into the next part of the journey. So yeah, I'll look forward to sharing more in a little bit.
Awesome. Savannah, I have to tell you, I love this photo. I didn't ask you if I could use this photo, but I just think this is the best photo of you. And if a photo can show passion and energy, this one does it. But Savannah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Savannah. I know everyone on this call, I think. So hello. I am a business intelligence analyst, first and foremost. I work for the TM Group. So my primary role here day to day is extending Business Central with Power BI. And along the way, I've been slowly learning AL development and playing with all the tools within, including a lot of AI-driven tools. We've seen a lot of tools being implemented across the products. So I think that's really, really exciting. But outside of like my day-to-day, I run a blog called Not a Pickle and a newsletter called The Power Frame, where I stress test the UI and the UX related to Microsoft products. I give big ideas, things that would be nice, etc. So yeah, a lot of exciting things coming related to those projects, as well as AI in general, helping move those along.
Great. And by the way, we haven't heard each other's stories. So we're looking forward to hearing the stories, I think, as much as everyone else in attendance is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about myself. I've been working with BC, which was formerly NAV and Vision, for about 20 years. And so when we talk about, Cortana and all these different early AI tools, I'm still thinking about, green screens and things like that. And so AI kind of intimidated me. And I thought, okay, well, how am I going to bring that into my role as a functional consultant working with customers? And in my role, what I do is I look at what the core product has to offer and look at what challenges the customers are trying to meet or solve and see if we can't do that with something standard in the application. Now, it's not about using something incorrectly, it's about using all that's there. And then if it doesn't work, then we start looking at what else can we do? Well, it used to be just apps and that kind of thing. All of a sudden now, what can we do with AI, right? What else can we have happen? What can we do with Copilot? Reporting is a big thing, and reporting is going to be greatly impacted by AI. So I'm looking forward to this whole AI evolution, but I'm also a little bit happy that I'm not intimidated by the technology, but in the same respect, realizing that there's somewhere that if I'm not a technical person, if I'm not doing development, that there's still a role for AI in what I do. So I'm really excited about that. All right. Oh, and one last thing I do want to give a plug. Sharing the Writer Way, I'm not selling anything, is I have a LinkedIn group called Sharing the Writer Way, and I post problems and solutions. And you'll see later on one of the ways that I make that happen when I share my AI story. So Nicole will be joining us later, and I'm going to go have her introduce herself maybe at the beginning of her segment. But you can see here that we have a real variety. We have Nancie with a very large organization focusing on enterprise. We have Savannah with a good-sized partner that does a lot with the different products, and her expertise in her area is that data analysis and business intelligence. Mine with Business Central, and Nicole is actually at Microsoft, and she is a solution architect. So you're going to get 4, I think, very different looks at AI. So let's talk AI. And this is where I get to hand it over to Nancie, because Nancie shared with me, and that we can share, some slides about AI in the workplace and in business. Nancie, you want to go ahead?
Yep, we're just going to admit this person.
I got it.
Yeah, so just something to think about. And, as this is a sort of mentorship career development, we wanted to talk about what is the impact on the workforce. And certainly when we start to look at some of the industry analysts out there, Harvard Business Review comes to mind, and they did a study. And what I really want to point out on this slide is that although we're seeing a 12% 12% of occupations that may now be automated, like those entry-level types of roles. The flip side is on the 19% that we're seeing an opportunity to create new roles. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of those new roles are, what you should start thinking about in terms of how to upskill yourself with the AI tools to make, continue to make yourself relevant. A little anecdote here, as I said, Accenture is one of our parents at Avanade. They now have instilled within the organization AI training that you must take. And it's been quite clear that if you do not adopt AI in some way in your day-to-day role, there will probably be an impact on you. So they're not exiting a lot of people just because of AI, but they are really encouraging and mandating, quite honestly, that that we start to use it in our day to day. So I was way ahead of that curve, and we'll tell you more about that when we talk about our individual stories. But as I said, there are very much new roles that you might want to think about, within Dynamics in the Power Platform. Understanding as an AI manager, if you've been looking at all at the frontier firm work that Microsoft has put in market, there's various levels. There's sort of AI as an assistant. There's human in the loop is the next level, where you're working with agents as an oversight. And then they foresee that as you really become a frontier firm, you're going to have a team of agents working in your business, and you're going to need a human oversight, which could be this AI manager role. So things are going to change. You've probably heard about prompt engineers. How we prompt is crucial to our success. I've seen things in our practice where maybe a prompt isn't quite right, and we're not getting the test case articulated, or the user story articulated the way we want. So we have to do it multiple times. So it's not saving us as much time when we have to come back and redo it over and over again. But so that's a really interesting role. And in our business, we're starting to share across our practitioners the different prompts that they're using that are creating success in their day-to-day work. So we have a whole library of prompts that we're keeping. Data curation specialists, well, I think people are getting the message that if your data isn't in the place that it needs to be, you're going to have problems with AI. You're going to have hallucinations. And I'll give you a little anecdote. It's not really related to data curation, but I've started to rely so much on Copilot, and I had to remind myself about hallucinations because I was going to a concert last night, and I asked Copilot by voice, what's the next train that's going to take me from this train station to this train station? And it gave me the time. And I even double checked it to make sure it was okay. Well, I got there and the train was coming half an hour later. And what I realized, it told me it was the train coming, instead of going from A to B, it was giving me the time from B to A. So look it up, and that's, you can't rely on it completely. You have to fact check it. Vibe coders, I think this is really interesting, and encourage you or developers that you work with to think about how you're using things like GitHub Copilot to actually start building code for you. And it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to replace you, but it's going to help you do things faster. And as a former developer, I can say one thing I'm super happy, and I'm sure most developers are, is that it can actually comment your code now, or it can look at somebody else's code and figure out what's going on. Because boy, was putting comments and documenting code one of my nemesis. It was not my favorite topic. So lots of new roles coming out in this AI world. Can move on to the next one unless anybody have questions or comments, other roles that you've seen. No? Okay. So for AI, we are starting to see new skills. As we said, the data platform things. So we're seeing a lot of data engineers, AI engineers coming to the forefront. We're seeing a lot of people trying to develop their skills in machine learning. And I'll tell another story here. We had a more junior analyst using some of the Fabric capability to do some data science things. And I really, we need to make sure that always that there's guardrails around, and, the use of responsible AI. And again, going back to that hallucination topic that I've experienced myself, but they were building a sales forecasting model using machine learning. And because they're not necessarily a data scientist, they didn't know how to validate the outcome of their model. So it's definitely not, machine learning, the tools are really easy to use, but you still have to know how to use it, and definitely upskill yourself there. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about programming languages, and we were talking about Copilot Studio. So if you're a developer and you want to get in on AI programming, Copilot Studio is definitely the place to go in our world. And then if you extend past that, learning Python, because that's the language of choice for many of these AI, like if you get into Azure AI, then you're probably going to need to know a little bit about Python. And then lastly, frameworks and understanding, again, responsible AI would be the one that I would encourage you to make sure you understand the governance and how to remove bias from AI. Those types of things would be, strongly beneficial to your career. And welcome, Nicole. I saw you join. We introduced you briefly earlier. We'll let you do a full-blown introduction shortly.
Yeah, thanks, Nancie.
And then, as in our Dynamics and Power platform, we are technologists, we are IT people that focus on business applications. So this chart from McKinsey, as I said earlier, there's many players out there, analysts. I thought this one was particularly interesting because if we look at the greatest impact that AI is bringing in terms of productivity and where it's going to shift the skill set, we can see the column with marketing and sales going across, which is the first one, going across all industries. But if you move along a little bit to software engineering, yes, that one, look, it's hitting every industry, and in some material, especially high tech, it's hitting that in a material way. So if you have any clients that are in the high tech industry or banking, yeah, that's another one. We're really starting to see clients embrace this, and we need to stay ahead of the curve as IT pros. I think that's what we had. Yeah. Any questions on any of that? Does that make sense? Like thumbs up if that all resonates with you.
Anybody sleeping? Or no, you wouldn't be able to tell us if you're sleeping, would you?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully not. To us, this is, I don't know, it's just amazing. And I look back and I think, anybody here a Star Trek fan? And, used to watch Star Trek, and they would come up to the captain with this little thing and say, "Captain, here's your report." And it was amazing. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then they would use communicators and they would flip them, right? Well, that became our flip phone. And now, our phones that were flip phones became this, right? AI is big in our world, is going from Star Trek in the 60s to where we are today, but it's not going to take that long. It's happening now, and it's happening at the speed of light. So what we're going to share today, some of these stories, I don't know, again, I think we're all hearing them for the first time ourselves, may be using super high tech, and some of them might be more of an everyday kind of thing. So Savannah, if it's okay, I'd love to start with you. Could you share for us a story about how you're using AI and maybe how you're using it every day so that we can understand how in your role AI is making a difference for you?
Yeah. Before I get into my story, I want to share another story that leads into my story.
Okay.
So, growing up, I'm 28 years old. Technology is not something that is new to me. But I think in my generation specifically, we saw very rapid increase in technology use. But it was never not there. So I think that's been really interesting as an adult to see how things have changed since I was a kid, and how now kids are growing up and how they can develop their tech skills. But that being said, when it comes to AI, I think it's very interesting. And I started doing an AI engineering course, and I made a drawing based on that course. So I'm going to steal the screen just for a second?
Absolutely. Sure.
It's not very great drawing, but um, in the course they had this very like interesting concepts about types of AI. So you have like your artificial intelligence, and that's when computers are working with like humans hands off, and then you have human, and then you have augmented um, intelligence. And this is kind of where humans and computers work together, and that's where generative AI comes from. And there's so many different types of AI. It's really hard to keep up. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you have this element of human and you have an element of computers. And I hear a lot like, oh, I'm afraid that AI will take my job, or I'm afraid like AI will do this or that. And one thing that I think is really important to stress is AI is great, but there's only so much a machine can do right now, right? They can ingest data, they can do repetitive analysis, and they can be accurate. Humans, we have this amazing skill with creativity, and AI can be very creative, but it may lack emotional depth. I think AI is really great at giving us smoke and mirrors, at least in its current state. So I've known people to use AI for like therapy. That's like one practical application. But as you begin to talk to your AI, sometimes it gives you what you want to hear.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always give you what's true. And that is also true when it comes to technology. So I think that's something that needs to be remembered as we talk about these like practical applications. Is it only knows so much, and it is like learning every day as people give it more. Um, but you can say like, make me a measure to do X, Y, and Z, and it will say, okay, here is your code, blah 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 blah. And this code may or may not work. It may or may not be the most uh, optimized way to do something. And so I think it's really important to separate like human intelligence and like AI intelligence. And AI, I think, is still in a way like in its infancy. And um, it wouldn't surprise me because there's so much AI. Like Amazon pushed an AI. I heard Walmart has an AI. Like everyone has this AI agents now, and I could see like almost a uh like a boom and a bust with AI, right? Everyone's implementing AI now. Is it good or not? But anyway, so keeping those things in mind, that's like my little AI rant. uh, I think it's very interesting. And in terms of Power BI, AI is not a new concept. Embedded within Power BI, there's actually like AI supported visuals like key influencers, Q&A, um, smart narrative. Like these are all things that I use every day. And I think they will progressively get better and better as Copilot integrations happen more so with Power BI. And a lot of those already use natural language. So for Q&A, for example, you could ask a question in natural language and Power BI could answer based on your data set. I recently used Smart Narrative, which is another visual, and it allows you to basically code a scenario. So for example, I have a dynamic text box in a report I'm working on now, and it basically evaluates jobs in Business Central, and it says, hey, these jobs don't have enough quantity on hand to fulfill it, but you may have so much on a purchase order coming in to help you fulfill it. So I think these are all like very practical as far as my daily role goes. And I haven't had the opportunity to play much with Copilot for Power BI. I know it can do things such as like create reports and evaluate data models and maybe even help you structure a data model. Haven't quite got there yet with the now like pay as you go model, but I hope in the future that Copilot will become more accessible for everyday Power BI users. Because before you needed the really expensive, like high tier SKU, and that was just inaccessible for a lot of people. As far as like my day-to-day goes with coding, I mentioned I'm a new like AL developer. I'm still learning. I'm mostly using it to create API pages. But there's a few fun things here and there, and Copilot in VS Code has been like really interesting because initially I didn't enable it, and now that I have it enabled, it will like try to finish my code for me, like based on whatever I'm doing, and I think that is it's crazy.
Does it
But
work?
it has worked.
Okay.
Like for example, if I'm creating an API page, I'll go back to my jobs example. If I have an API page created with the number, maybe I want to add the description. If I start typing D, it'll put in description, and it will give me my caption and everything else that I may need associated. As far as the AL language goes, it still has some quirks because of like camel case requirements and that kind of thing. It's not very good at. It just kind of plugs it in and then you can fix it. But I think it gives you a good starting point. And I think this is also good for like DAX, writing measures and calculated columns in Power BI too. I think it's a good starting point, but it's something to take with a grain of salt.
So it's a tool. It's not replacing you. It's a tool in your toolbox to help you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's made my work very fast, and it's really made me think about coding in DAX in ways that I may not have previously thought of, which I don't have a background in development. I actually never wrote a line of code before I started down this journey. So it's been a really interesting like process to go from never writing code to writing code on my own to now like having this assistant help me do so.
But it's interesting. I think this will be a kind of interesting transition here. Savannah, you mentioned about growing up with technology as part of your life, right? As long as you can remember, and getting into coding and starting like everyone else did, typing it, to now having AI help you. But all of that was in a very compressed time compared to other people who've been coding for a long time this way, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they have help. So do you think that you will get up to speed faster and become as good as maybe some others that took longer the old way with AI's help?
That's a really interesting question, and I almost want to say no.
Okay.
And I say that because while AI is awesome, at least in its current state, I feel more like a vibe coder. I don't really know what I'm doing in most of the time. And if it works, that's great. But, like AI can give you context of what it did and why and how, but a lot of the times it's still not 100% there. And that could go back to how a prompt is generated. But
it can't replace real experience, at least not yet, right?
Right. And I have a friend who they're a recruiter, and they tell me all the time, well, we get so many resumes that are clearly AI generated, and you will get into an interview with someone and they don't know what they're talking about, or they can't pass a technical like evaluation.
Right. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, I think these tools are really excellent, and I think, they are going to continue to grow and boom. But it's not going to replace the human aspect of business or development
Or
uh,
experience,
or
period.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think it's wonderful and a great tool.
So Nancie, you knew I was going to segue to you, right?
I was thinking maybe.
I wasn't planning this. I just said, okay, I'll go to whoever. So Nancie, I can say this too, right? I didn't grow up with the technology.
Yeah.
My husband and I were remembering today that we had to get out of our chair to change the channel on the television set.
Yes.
Just saying,
The box
okay?
had a cord on it.
Yeah, no, we didn't even have, I had black and white. I went to my
Yeah.
girlfriend's house to watch in color. Okay.
Yeah.
So my point is this, we've seen a lot happen over the years,
Yes.
but you've also mentioned that you're an earlier adopter, you believe, of AI, and probably super early for someone as far along in their career. I mean, we don't deny it. I'm proud of how long I've been working. All right. So Nancie, can you share a story of how you're using AI and what kind of difference it's made for you?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to share this one little bit of a story about, referencing back to, how long we've been in this market, Cynthia, because I started out as a statistician. And I was trying to load in the mainframe back in the day, 12 months worth of accounting data, 12 months worth of operating statistics, because I was trying to build a statistical model. And the IT department told me that I was going to use the whole compute power of the organization. It was a large railroad. So they said, nope, you can't do it. And then I had to build essentially these, ETLs. And, we had, it was huge mainframes,
Oh
whole
yeah.
floors of, we
What is an
barely had
what is an ETL, Nancie?
extract, transform, load. So I was building
Okay.
summarizations, those types of things. So yeah, I think
Right.
it's really the compute, because
And our
AI, like
phone
I said
could
earlier,
probably do it now, right? The phone
yeah,
could probably do it. Yeah.
yeah, and AI's been around for a long time. It's just we haven't really had the compute power in some ways, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So, how do I use this on a day-to-day basis? Like, I can't even, I was writing down in my notes here, like, how many times do I use it every day? It's like, every moment of every day, from the story I told you about using Copilot yesterday to, I don't think I've written an email myself without using Copilot. It goes and I'll give it a thought. It's always my thoughts though,
Mhm.
right? So I'll give it a little bit of a thought. It'll go and look at the trail that's in there, and it'll help me craft how I want to respond to something. And then I have to tweak it, have to get, away from that hallucination topic. And, you know, I find people are still apologizing that they're using AI, and I'd really like to see us shift from that.
Right.
And it's really important, as we're talking about, to think about it as a tool. So I was at Dynamics Communities I'm getting my places, Orlando, because I was in
Orlando.
Vegas last week for Power Platform, or the week before. And I had my, I was there as a speaker. I had my presentations already, and then my company was sponsoring. So they got some spotlight thing, and they said, okay, well, you're going to do the spotlight. It's a 15-minute thing. Here's the topic. And I'm like, oh man, like I
They
don't have
told you this
time.
while you were there, right?
Well, it was the
A
week
little
before.
before.
It was
Okay.
definitely the week before, because I'm
Okay.
like, oh man, how am I going to put this together? It's going to take so much time. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to go to one of the guys on my team, because I think we have a really good story. It was about, I'm a contact center MVP, so it was about contact center. And he said, yeah, I can help you with that. So I set up a call with him. We recorded the Teams call. I was asking him questions. I then took the transcript from that and pumped it into PowerPoint to come up with the first cut of my slides. And then it wasn't far from what the end result was, but I saved myself so much time, and not apologizing to anybody for doing that. It's just another tool that's going to help us gain efficiencies.
So,
My organization,
Nancie, I just want to insert something real quick.
yeah,
We don't apologize for using spell check.
yeah, exactly. It's another first AI, right?
Right. Go
Exactly.
ahead. I'm sorry. It just
And
came to me.
yeah, and I, because I've been at my organization I've been here 11 years, which is long for us. And I have a global remit. People often come to me for that tribal knowledge of, what projects have we worked on? What have we done? And so I started using Copilot right in Teams to ask for various, content, or I would take the question that the person asked me and pump it right into it. And it would come back with some fabulous results. So now I'm training my team, like, you don't have to come to me. You guys all have this Copilot tool in M365 that gives you access to the wealth of knowledge that we have in our organization. Start using it. Like, that's going to be the quickest way. And then you can self-serve, and you're not dependent on me or other people in global or other areas to come back to you with something. You can actually get to your answer very, very quickly. Couple more things. I'll add that our team is within practice starting to use natural language and MCP servers to make updates to Dynamics, because we work in the CRM side. So Dynamics first party tables like contacts and accounts and opportunities, which you can't do with the pure Power platform version, the plan designer. So you can use MCP servers to actually help you make changes to those out of the box entities, which is a game changer for us. Like, we have so much pressure from our clients saying, there's AI out there. How come you're not doing things faster? How come you're not reducing your prices? Like, that's a lot of what we're seeing out there. And then lastly, on a personal note, every day I get up and I go to Copilot and I say, okay, I use a device that monitors where I am in my like carb cycles. It's called a Lumen. So I go to Copilot and I say, okay, this is the reading I got today. Can you make a plan for me for my meals, my supplements, like everything that I should be taking? When do I do my exercise? When should I go for a walk? And every day it just updates it with something new. It's an ongoing discussion that we have. So kind of like what Savannah, you inspired me when you're talking about like counseling. I'm using it as a health nutrition counselor. So that's another thing to think about. There's just so many uses.
That's just really cool. So we've heard two completely different stories, two completely different or multiple different uses based on the roles that these individuals have in their organizations. So now we're going to switch. I guess I'm kind of getting a little bit like larger on organizations too, because Nicole, I'm going to say that you're up. And what I would like for you to do, first of all, I'm going to have you, I'm going to go back to your slide here. I'm going to have you introduce yourself. And after you do that, why don't you share with us how AI's impacted you and the difference it's made in your role, or it professionally or personally?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Potentially a lot of background noise, but Teams is pretty good at noise suppression and stuff as well. So thanks for covering my introduction earlier. I had a bit of a conflict the first few minutes of this meeting. But yeah, I'm a principal fast track solution architect at Microsoft. I have been at Microsoft for over 5 years now, but I've been in the industry, and by industry, I really mean supply chain industry, for over 15 years. And as I noted there, kind of my specialty as far as my knowledge and my experience and even my education, right, is really in supply chain. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about, how AI has changed really even my role at Microsoft, right, especially in the last couple of years. But also I can give some, personal anecdotes as well. So I'll kind of start with, I echo a lot of the sentiment that I just heard Nancie share as far as, using AI for kind of that personal productivity, right? Microsoft itself loves to say now, right, that Copilot is your UI for AI, right? So Copilot itself, right, is kind of your conduit to your chat experiences, right? Your collaboration workspaces like Copilot Pages, and even your AI agents, right? Like your researcher. So all of those are things that I'm using in my day-to-day job, right? To make myself more productive, right? Unfortunately, I have not figured out how to clone myself. Therefore, the next best thing I can do is similar to something Nancie said is I actually went and built a essentially like a supply chain insights agent, right? And it's for my internal team of colleagues and our sellers and, other people in Microsoft across organizations that would come to me, right, with questions about, any of the functionality that I have expertise in, but I cannot field those one-on-one questions. That's not scalable, right? And I just can't do it. There's not enough hours in the day. But now with AI, right, I can set up an agent that said, hey, use all the content I've created, right? And all of the questions I've answered internally, and all this like repository I've built up of these knowledge articles that we use, right? Our team uses for guidance. And so it's published to like internal sources. Use that as your knowledge base agent, right? And then somebody can come, like Nancie said, like a deflection, right? It's a deflection for me. It's self-service for them to now just go ask their question to the agent and get a pretty robust answer, right? And that's way more scalable for me. So that has been absolutely a game changer to be able to kind of put that in front of like myself as a first line defense, but it also just helps scale my colleagues as well instead of them having to come to me. So that's been a really interesting use case. I've just built that up recently in the last couple of months. And so I'll be kind of operationalizing it officially, if you will, and getting out to our broader teams, hopefully by the end of the calendar year. On a more personal note, I like Nancie's example as well, and I'm getting ready to take a trip to Florida with my husband. It's our wedding anniversary this week, and we had like one event planned for like one evening, but we're going to be there for like 3 days, right? We both been to Tampa, but we didn't really have an itinerary planned. So I went to Copilot and I have M365 Copilot on my phone even, right? So as I'm, just hanging out in the evening, I go to Copilot on my phone. I say, hey, we're taking this trip to Tampa. Here are the days, here are the things we like to do, right? Like, can you make some restaurant recommendations? What are the can't miss things, right? Like while we're there. And it came back with a really great, like, hey, this morning you should check this out and then make sure you hit this spot, for lunch or, gave some options and here are some things you could do in the evening and here are some romantic things since it's your anniversary, right? Like it was very tailored and very personalized. So on a personal front, I'm using it as well. So
cool. It's interesting. Again, we're hearing overlap, but again, unique uses of AI. So I'm going to step in and I'm going to actually show you something. So I knew that I needed to, well, see my Rakuten's coming up here. I knew that I needed to do this presentation and I was just going to kind of shoot from the hip. And then I thought, you know what? I wanted to share a story and I'm going to share a story first. And then I thought, okay, and I literally did this 20 minutes before the hour, okay? But the story I wanted to share was that I use AI every day, constantly, to help me solve problems for the customers. And one of the things that I do, like I said, is I try to find solutions using the standard logic in Business Central. And when I'm doing that, I used to go to learn.microsoft, or I would like look through my old documentation and stuff, and I would go find the answer. Well, now I ask ChatGPT right away. Now, it is wrong right now as often as it is right. But the thing about when it's right and it's wrong, they're both on steroids. So when I get a right answer, it's a really nice detailed right answer. When I get a wrong answer, it's a really nice detailed wrong answer. So when I know it's right, so I still have to use my expertise. So 20 minutes before this, I said, I have 7 minutes to share how I'm using AI to help me in my work every day, using my chat history, provide me with highlights of what I should share, get specific with what I did, how it was used, and if I've done it multiple times. So it came up with an outline for me. And this is using ChatGPT. And by the way, I do pay the $20 a month to get the extra. And it says, okay, here's all these different points. And I kind of read through them. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's good. Okay, a minute on that. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. And okay, it's 20 minutes before this presentation, right? I got to get moving here. All right. So it says, do you want me to produce an actual PowerPoint deck? And I said, yes, please. So it gives me all these. This looks great, right? This is going to make this into a deck. Wow, this is awesome. Where's the deck? It says, do you want me to use your branded colors and accents? And then I started typing and I had my fingers in the wrong place. It says, I'm not quite sure what you meant. I love it because I'm going to give it a name, but I think everybody else already calls it Chatty Cathy, so I've got to come up with something different. So then I said, okay, wait a minute, this isn't working. I'm up to now like 15 minutes, okay? So what I did, whoops, is I closed it. I took the information from here and I went to something that I have, which is this PowerPoint builder for Gamma. And I can take information and I can just give it a prompt and ask it to make a slide deck for me. So I can give it that 7-minute prompt and it would do the same thing. So instead of going to the PowerPoint for Gamma, because then I realized, wait, I already did that. I already have all of the slides. I came to Gamma. I do pay for this also. You can have a free version. And I went ahead and I said, okay, generate something new. And I have my preferred, I'm a consultant and I have certain colors. And I put everything in and this is what it would look like freeform. And here's what it did card by card. Okay, and then I told it to generate. All right, so then what it did is it came up with, I just got to find it here. It came up with a deck. All right. And because I said do illustrations, etc., so I have a slideshow to share with you today. Now, I did not proof it, so there might be some wrong in here, right? But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, oops, that's not the slideshow I want to share. Getting confused between my PowerPoints here. Okay, from current slide. Okay, how I use AI every day. Practical ways it helps me think, work, and teach. All right, and I explain complex topics. I do that a lot. And I try to get it in simple terms. And I will send a prompt and I'll say, all right, I'm trying to explain why direct cost applied works the way it does when I am posting production orders in Business Central. And I have a controller who has a strong background in audit, but is weak in cost accounting. And so then it'll come up with a controller ready response for someone who's strong in audit and weak in cost accounting. I use it to take and put things in order. I've used it to generate functional requirements documents. Now, I have to go through them and I absolutely have to change them. But I'm editing. I'm not starting from scratch. And I'll take sections that are wrong and I'll give ChatGPT those sections back and I'll say, this isn't right. And it'll go, you're absolutely right. And then I'll say, well, if you knew that now, why did you give it to me in the first place? And it'll say, because I'm not always right. I mean, I actually have conversations with it. But what it does, it allows me to do this documentation and get it done quickly. I will then take it and do things like I'm doing here. I built a swim lane for that whole direct cost applied thing. And I took it and I put it into Figma. And I used Figma from ChatGPT, Figma in there to Figma to do the swim lane. I don't have Visio. All right. So here I have, and okay, I don't know if this graphic means anything, but it looks kind of cool, right? So again, I can change the graphics. I did not edit this at all. This is exactly what came out of that chat and this. Build swim lanes, posting flows, visual explanations, refine my MGC style and proportions for clarity. These are in my colors. I use it to write articles. So I will start with a customer problem. And then I will take that problem and I will get the answer, clean up the answer, give it to the customer. Then I'll take that, put it into ChatGPT and say, make it into a problem solution format for the sharing the right away LinkedIn group. And then I realize, oh, this could be a good article. Then I say, take this and get more background information on why this is important, et cetera, and I build articles. So I use it for troubleshooting. I use it to create reference sheets. I have used it to create colorblind friendly visuals, and I forgot about that. I just did that 2 days ago and I already forgot. I needed to create a visual that went out to everyone in the manufacturing department. And it created this really pretty colorful visual. And I realized that more men are colorblind than women. And yes, I'm being sexist. I'm allowed to be it because whatever. But so I happen to know that there's mostly men on the manufacturing floor. So I wanted to make sure that if anyone was colorblind, it would still make sense to them. All right. So it's about all of these things. It's allowing me to, in a day, somebody asked me, how are you getting all this material out there? On Friday, I solved the client's problem in the morning, documented it. Friday night, granted, I was doing it until 8 o'clock at night. I wrote an MSDW article and I sent it off to Jason. I would have never been able to do that without AI. So it is not in any way replacing any expertise. In fact, if I am finding it's wrong 30% of the time when I get into deep dive technical stuff. And that's what I'm getting into. So I don't want you to think it's wrong all the time. I like Nancie's term, I never thought of calling it hallucinations, because I don't read a whole bunch of documentation about AI either. And I'm not collaborating with a big team like these other, I'm an independent consultant, okay? But it has absolutely rocked my world and I'm functional. I don't do development, all right? But it helps me explain, document, visualize, share the right away faster and more clearly than ever before. This presentation was done in less than 5 minutes. I have goosebumps myself. All right. So I was hoping there would be time for me to wrap up with this, and I had no idea I was going to do this until 20 minutes before. All right. So who has any questions for any of us? Anybody?
Maybe Cynthia, you could move to the next slide, and then Nicole and I
Sure.
both have to drop at the top of the hour. And I'm afraid
Yep.
if I drop, that it's going to kill the call.
Right. Well, and I wanted to make sure that we finished on time. So, so what's the one thing that you'll experiment with tomorrow using AI? Put it in the chat if you don't mind. Or actually, we have a few people here, and if you don't mind, if you'd share verbally, that'd be great because it'll be on the recording. So who would like to share the one thing you're going to experiment with tomorrow or today using AI? Mike or Ashley or anybody? Oh, there we go. Dev Toys is a colorblind simulation accessibility as well. Thank you, Savannah, for sharing that. I have MPC servers. So that's something that they're going to try. Nancie's going to drop now. All right.
I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to
But
surprise
something,
everybody.
right?
We're using these tools every day, and maybe we're not having the paid versions. Is one of the thoughts I have. The licensing we use for Office 365 is like $22 a user a month. The Copilot add-on is $30 a user a month. You justify that to your board, and they're not going to do it for everybody. So you can only do what you can do.
That's true. That is very true. You bring up an interesting point. There are free versions of AI out there, and there are versions that are going to increase cost. And until that value can be proved, it's like any other purchase, right? The value has to be demonstrated. If I have to just demonstrate it to the managing partner, I will tell you that it has more for me, but it's one person, right? More than paid for itself. So if you look at each role in your organization and look at how that role might be able to use AI and what that AI is, because it's got to be the right one too, right? Whether it's Copilot or it's ChatGPT or it's Gamma or it's, whatever it is, will it return? Will it return on the investment? So if we leave everybody with that thought, It's what are you going to experiment with? There's a lot of free opportunities out there. And I think the last thing would be, what's the right AI for each person in the organization? It's not necessarily a blanket approach. This is going to be our AI tool. That's not the way to go about it. So the last thing I want to leave you with here is that we do have this Doug mentorship program. And if you're interested in being mentored, or if you're interested in being a mentor, reach out to one of the people here on this meetup. But if you're interested in being a mentee, you can go to the Doug mentorship page. This is a link in the slide deck. But if you go to the page, the Doug website, there is a page for the mentorship now. And we would love to have anyone who's interested or got benefit out of this and would like to get this kind of benefit one-on-one from a mentor from our community, please reach out and let us know. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your being here. We hope you got something out of this, and we'll let you know what's coming up next month, so keep an eye out. Thank you.